To the Drummer Mindset Podcast. I'm Joel Pereira. This week, I share my interview with Quinn McKearney. He plays with the band Safety Coffin, which is a driving, kick-ass, filthy, raw blues duo out of Asheville, North Carolina, and it is great. Definitely recommend catching them live. Also, their record they just released is awesome as well. I'll put links in the description for you. He is a highly involved drummer in all aspects of the art when it comes to forming a band, coming up with themes, coming up with the production as well, and even the riffs and everything else, so writing the music and whatnot. And so it's really exciting to see kind of a young band forming and doing their thing here locally, and hopefully you'll get a chance to catch them. They will be playing he will be playing two different shows at Fleetwood's coming up in this month of October 2023. October 13th, he's playing with Paprika, and then with Safety Coffin, October 28th, both again at Fleetwood's in Asheville, North Carolina. Anyway, here it is, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, 8th grade. So just kind of had the thing happen where a couple buddies and I all started to get into like rock music at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even necessarily that drums were like calling to me, but it was one of those things where like everybody else took a step forward, so I was left there to play drums and
Right.
had parents willing to like let me get a drum set, which also come on, not a whole lot of parents out there being like, yeah, I'll let my 13-year-old have some drums.
I know. I look back on it too. It's like the same age, and you know, they didn't care if everyone brought their gear and was just like making noise.
Yeah,
It's nice.
pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Very thankful.
I think as a parent, you know, that it's like, you know, it's just good to know where your kids are, I think.
Yeah, and like doing something.
Right.
Like, I don't know, but
Learning.
doing nothing, learning something.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
So yeah, my parents let us practice in the garage and everything like that. So yeah, I was like 13. It was awesome.
Nice. Did you just were you self-taught?
No, I did like the middle school band thing and everything, and I played tenor saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Before tenor sax, I played clarinet, and then there's like a point, at least in the school system that I was in, where it's like, all right, you've ran through the clarinet enough, which is hilarious also because like it's an instrument nobody's ever like got it down, you know, but you hit a point in like the middle school band and we're like, okay, you can move on if you want, and you can either do like saxophone or like tuba or percussion. And I was like so split on like what to do, because like, do I want to do drums? But I ended up doing saxophone, which like to this day is just kind of weird to me, because like 18 months later or something like that, I was like so in on drums, but I made this decision. I was like, I'm not going to play drums. So I never did it like in school or anything like that, really. But me and my mom were like driving around town, going all like the music shops, asking if they did lessons. And they were like, oh, are you trying to like do an academic setting? Are you trying to learn like, you know, marimbas and whatnot? And I was like, no, I'm trying to play rock and roll, which was like a really hard thing to like find. Like most of the music shops around there just kind of like, no, not really, you know.
Yeah, wow.
But then I found a really, really awesome instructor at like the music shop right up the road, where like the dudes inside smoked cigs still. You know, it was like, man,
Smoking inside.
yeah, smoking inside. It was like the grodiest little music shop. And then they were like, yeah, we just had this guy move into town from New York, and he's taking students, and allegedly used to fill in for Twisted Sister.
Oh, wow.
Allegedly. Now he's since passed away. Rest in peace. But I can never confirm it.
Right.
I was like, you got some pics? And there's like a pic, but it's just him. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a little harder to dig up back then.
He's got like one old decrepit Polaroid. It's like, I see the pink sticks, I see the hair.
Right.
I don't see D. Snyder though. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Right. It's also interesting though, because like if you were gonna lie about it, would you choose Twisted Sister?
That's true.
I don't know.
That's true. I mean, kind of go big or go home if you're lying, right?
Right.
I don't know that would be my choice, but
right.
I don't know.
So you start like 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
You had a band, and that's how it started. The band needed drums.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool because I feel like that, most of the people when they start their first band, it's like, putting up the flyers or
right.
whatever. But yeah, we just had like this moment in 8th grade. I mean, you know how it is. Bunch of weird kids, too. We weren't cool, nothing like that. So it was like, not that that's why we were trying to start a band, but we had this like, let's start a band.
Yeah.
So we all learned at the same time, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the same level of suck at the same amount. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it was a cool thing. Just like a one day, like, yeah, we're going to do this. Haven't looked back ever since, which is cool. One of the guys I still play with.
Oh, nice.
Who lives up here.
Okay.
The other 2 guys, I don't think they really play as much anymore. But, yeah, it was a cool way of it happening. Because you're all growing together, start from square one.
Right.
Everybody's kind of pushing each other or like, learning cover songs back then. It's like, okay, this one's a little tougher than what we're able to do. And then it's all of us kind of pushing each other, trying to get it down. Do
you have a specific song you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, we did a bunch of 90s stuff,
Mm-hmm.
we did a bunch of 90s stuff. The one for me was like, we played School by Nirvana, but it's like off Bleach. So I guess it was Chad Channing or like Dave Crover or some pre-Dave Grohl Nirvana. And on that, I mean, it's got like a double kick part, and I didn't even know what double kick really was yet. So I was like, how is this what is going on here?
Right.
I can't do this. What's going on? I never got it. I'm not even, I still can't play it because I don't do double kick. But that was one where I was like really trying to like push that right foot speed to at least try and get it close. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was one that one got me. He's doing all this like bell stuff in the chorus too, along with the kick flying. I was like, I don't even know what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And of course, everybody else is just getting to like rip this little 1-note riff, and they're like, "Yo, keep up! What are you doing?" I'm like, "Y'all don't, I don't even get it. I don't even have the gear to do this. Y'all don't get it."
Right. Yeah, it's always interesting when you get like, especially like a new player, like a new guitarist or something that writes like a drum part or writes a song, and they're like at 220 BPM, and you're like, did you do this on a machine? Because
come on, or when they send you the demo and it's got like the program drums where there's 3 arms going. They got some hi hats going, they got the snare going, and they got this complex tom part. It's like, hey man, I ain't got the 3rd limb.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I got the
first
3rd
arm.
That's
crazy.
Yeah, you're like the art comes out of the limits, right? And so sometimes it's the limit on the drums. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So like depending on how fast you want to play and all that. I never got the double bass either. I think I had a setup. I did have a setup. I think it was a Gibraltar setup, and it always sounded like galloping,
Yeah.
But it was
It'd be so uneven every time I fool around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The harder right foot, then I can't.
So then I just started and then I went to my drum teacher at the time, and I was like, I want to learn this. And he's like, well, why do you want that when you can just do it with 1 foot? He was like, 1 foot guy, jazz drummer, but also like listen to Zeppelin. Like that's all a single foot. You can just do your doubles, do your rolls, and all that on your 1 foot, and get it close enough. And it's like, okay. And then I just kind of started listening to a lot of drummers that really only used, like in that genre, but they only used the single kick,
Yeah.
So like I think Abe Cunningham from Deftones, and then John Stenier from Helmet. Like that's who I kind of like. That's what I would blast.
From Helmet's the one.
Yeah, specifically that one is the one that I would just play for hours on end. Just like that whole Meantime album.
Yeah.
Was just like, that's it. That's all I would do for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, old dudes love bringing up Bonham to convince you to not do double kick. All right, good time, bad times. Listen to the first 30 seconds. Like, all right, maybe I don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
Once he rips that little triplet thing, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I'm ever trying to do anyways. I don't need anything. I don't need anything more than that. The little flutter.
Right.
That's it. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. And kind of like, and the sound y'all get. So now just going to, like Safety Coffin. How long have y'all been together?
We had played together a couple times before COVID, but like pretty sporadically, like once every couple months.
So y'all met here in Asheville?
Yeah. We met at like a Ty Siegel acoustic show, actually. And he had just started working at the GC like a couple days before that, but we hung out a whole lot that night and kind of got the friendship formed then. But yeah, so we both had other projects going then, so Safety Coffin was kind of like the fun way back burner side project.
Gotcha.
He had moved from Naples, Florida, just a month or two before I met him, and still had his band going called The Good Bad Kids, which was like, it was cool. I mean, it was really cool stuff. A lot of like more kind of like folky kind of stuff. Like he was playing acoustic guitar, but also like, like quick boom pap and drum stuff. And like they had a cat playing a washboard and an upright bass, like that kind of thing. Getting paid at them Florida breweries kind of stuff,
Right.
But yeah, he's doing all sorts of like cool acoustic guitar, like open chord position kind of stuff. But that was his project. He was trying to keep it going once he moved from Florida. And then at that time, I'd probably had a couple bands going, but my band Sane Voids, which was like my longest standing Asheville thing.
Okay.
And it came out of like some of these dudes that I met in Winston. That one had been going for like 5 or 6 years, something like that, before it came to an end. So I had that going. I had another band called Baghead going. So like we were both pretty busy. So Safety Coffin was like once in a blue moon kind of thing. And we had like, I don't know, a song he wrote, a song I wrote, and we just kind of played them.
But always a two-piece.
Always the two-piece. Yeah. Safety Coffin was really cool. I mean, I'm sure he'll kind of tell you the same thing if you speak to him, but like it's one of those projects that we kind of like knew what it was gonna sound like before we even like played a note together.
Yeah, that's not like because you had it going in the background kind of a thing or just a side project, so you had a lot of time to kind of like let it marinate.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then just like from hanging out, talking to each other, like the kind of music that we loved, that we didn't have any sort of band playing, like, with his other band, Good Bad Kids, like, it was a lot, like I said, a lot more like acoustic kind of stuff. And then with Sane Voids, I was playing like pretty heavy punk stuff, just like ripping. And there's all sorts of bands that we liked, and the bands that we were playing and weren't really scratching the itch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we're a duo. We love like Black Keys and White Stripes and Flat Duo Jets. But we also like a lot of like the hilltop kind of country blues kind of stuff, like Junior Kimbrough and all our R.L. Burnside, that kind of stuff. So it was one of those things where like, yeah, that's how this project is going to sound. I know we haven't wrote a song together yet or played together yet, but like once we do, that's what it's going to sound like.
Yeah. Man, y'all got a great sound. I was really digging it. I think it was kind of like, it's fitting that I just kind of released and just actually had a conversation with Emma not too long ago because they opened for your CD release. And that's kind of where I became aware of you both.
Yeah.
At Fleetwood's. And then caught you again for the festival, AVL Fest.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just into it. It's just fun. It's just a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Do you ever, so you already knew kind of what it was before you really started writing songs specifically for it or focusing on it. Do you ever miss a bass player?
No. Bass players are terrible. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I don't know. Matt is pretty good at,
right.
I mean, he's pretty good at doing his thing,
Totally.
We run like the stereo amps, so we've got one of the amplifiers with the big 15-inch speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that one like dimed for all the low end, and then we have my deluxe reverb off to the side with all like the shiny kind of highs.
Mm-hmm. The sound is definitely not lacking for a bass drum. Like, I don't feel like it needs it at all.
Yeah.
But I just, like, in my mind, it's always something, that relationship, it's like, where's the bass? Like, I want to be next to the bass player. Got to help me lock in, all that kind of stuff. And the times that I have played with just a guitar, it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But maybe that not as much attention brought to, like, what you're talking about, how you,
try and
fill
bring everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are times, like I say, he does like all those like whammy tricks where he can like drop the octave or two and play some of those more bass lines, which is cool. Yeah, there's times where it's like, it'd be cool, especially if he's like taking a solo or something, to have another dude there with me, or somebody there just locking in the rhythm, that kind of thing. But at the same time, with it being the two-piece, I feel like, it's just you and me, like we're just like looking at each other. There's no like, I don't know, not to say there's no getting off, but it's like, it's us, it's you and me in the room right now, and like we're looking at each other, and like, I don't know, most of the time we can kind of lock in, or at least I can feel what he's feeling, he can feel what I'm feeling. We've been playing together long enough too, where it's like, if I screw up, he screws up. We kind of, everybody's got those kind of things on stage with their bandmates, little looks and that kind of thing to help get back on.
Sure.
But as far as like driving the rhythm and that kind of thing goes, like, I don't know. Sometimes I miss it for sure. Especially because I dogged on bass players a minute ago, but a lot of my bass players I've played with in Asheville have been super awesome, and some of my favorite musicians I've worked with. But I don't know if there's something, I've never done a two-piece before either, so there's something to be said about like new challenge. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do like exactly what you were describing. Just like there's no one else, like you and him, and you just lock in and you pay attention, and it's not also like this other layer of, okay, where's this other brain at? Like where your ear is at? What are you? That whole thing. Yeah,
I feel like a good bass player too. They're so locked in, and just like they're right there at home. They keep it going, and like, I don't know, it's kind of cool with the two piece. Like there's kind of like there's no home base that we got to get back to or nothing like that. It's just kind of like if we're both having a night where we're just kind of flying off the handle a little bit, like that's fine, that's cool. As long as he and I are together, then that's cool. So
nice.
But yeah, I mean it's cool. I feel like I've had almost every. Well, I'm not playing in like Empire Strikes Brass or nothing like that with 13 members, but I've done the 3-piece.
Sure.
I've done the 4-piece. I've done the 5-piece. I've done the 6-piece. So like this is the first time doing the duo thing, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Less coordination also. Everybody knows how terrible it is trying to get your bandmates to practice.
Totally.
I only got to worry about one other person.
Right. Right. Yeah. Logistics become a lot easier.
It's so much easier. Yeah. And that's like not a good reason to like have a band, but it comes up a lot. Splits 50-50, baby. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really makes you only got to pick up one other person. It's awesome.
Do y'all do a lot of travel outside of town?
Not nearly as much as we want to. It's kind of, we took such a long break to record this album. I mean, we really hadn't played live, dude, in like 8 months or 7 months or something like that, with the exception of like little like benefit shows or like a buddy throwing a party kind of thing. But before the album, we'd been a band for a year and a half or 2 years, and we had like a couple tracks out. So we were really like, we gotta record an album. We're writing all these songs. We kind of got to the point where we were like, we gotta stop writing songs because we're not recording them and they're not being documented, and like we gotta slow down a little bit. And because we were playing live so much, like we didn't it's hard to record an album. It takes a lot of time. So it was like, all right, we'll do it next month. And then it's like, all right, next month rolls around and we got gigs on like Friday, the next Saturday. You know what I mean? So like we could just never get the momentum rolling on recording the album. So we had to take a pretty long pause. Before we did that, though, we were starting to expand the web. We had done a little Florida run because that's like his hometown. Sure. So we went down that way. We've done Charleston and Savannah. We do Winston some. We've done some like really silly stuff where we drove up to Akron, Ohio to play one gig and then drove back.
Okay.
Just because we really want to take this show on the road, but we're so yeah. I mean, we've done some. That was so dumb and really fun. No regrets, but it was drove up 6.5 hours.
Yeah, so just for time and cost and all that, not didn't pay off in that way, but
yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and like I think kind of proved to he proved to me and I proved to him nah, we're about this. We're trying to do this. Yeah, like I'll be crazy with you and drive up to Ohio for one gig, and we left. I mean, Matt McWater I was just talking about how easy the logistics are in a 2-piece. My boy is always late. He really is. So we left for Akron, Ohio at like 8 p.m. It was like raining out. It was terrible.
And how long of a drive is that?
It's over 6.
Yeah.
Not as long as I thought it was, but like a pretty good little hike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, like I was like, all right, that's the kind of person you want to be in a band with, though. Somebody that's crazy enough to like do something stupid like that with you because of the art, because of the because of the rock and roll.
Right. Yeah. I think before we were recording, it's just like that idea of like when you get the idea, just go with it because otherwise it can get stale.
Yeah.
And that experience alone, though, right? Like you said, it proved to each other like y'all were both in it.
Yeah.
But also, like, it probably changes the math, too. It's like, okay, how many gigs in Akron do we need before it's worth it?
Oh, totally. Totally. And, like, we knew that going in. We were like, doesn't make sense, but let's do it.
Nice.
Got to hit the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame afterwards, too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Got kicked out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nah, because Matt tried to steal John Lennon's guitar. It was a whole...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would cross the ropes. No, we were just, it was closing. It wasn't that cool.
You closed it down.
Yeah, we closed it down.
Nice.
But yeah. Yeah. So now that the album's out, that's the goal, right? Mm-hmm. Is to just try and book as many out of town shows and take it on the road as much as possible.
And, what I've also, it seems to me like there's so many artists now that are just like pumping out singles as they get the time, And so, I mean, there's still plenty of albums coming out to some degree, but when it's a DIY situation, which I assume, right? Like this is independent.
Yep.
And so a lot of times you don't see that kind of commitment or that kind of investment in time as much these days, but y'all did it knowing like it was going to take you out of the gigging world for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I think it goes with everything like that, where it's like, no, this will take us like 2 months, 3 months.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, we're a little behind schedule. Maybe it'll be like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
It's been 7 months now, and we're still like at the end of the line. We got the album release date booked.
Okay.
We told everybody, and it's like, damn, we still got shit to do. We're time crunching. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like the singles and everything, I feel like that's the modern way of doing it. That might even be the smarter way of doing it too, because it's, it's more stuff to hype, more opportunities, like plug things and throw shows like single release, everything like that. But he and I are both, him more than me, I think, is like, hey, we're a little bit of an old school kind of guy. Like we wanted to put an album out.
Yeah.
We needed to put in, like, we just wanted to, man.
I respect it.
I've never I've done albums before, but they've always been like compilations of some sort, or 5 from this session and a couple months later and a couple more from this session. Like we wanted to just like sit down and then record the album, and like do it all same environment, do it all the same way.
Right.
So I'm glad we did it. It took a long time, but I'm glad we did it for sure.
I appreciate the fact that you all did it. It's great. I've been listening to
Thank
it. And I think that the album, I don't know, maybe in the independent scenario, like it's not done as much. I feel like for all the reasons you just said, it's awesome to do because it can tell a story. And there's, in the modern age too, like it's interesting as I've been doing this podcast, so many folks were like, tried it a bunch of different ways, but batch your interviews and then you can release several at once and it gives something for people to like dive into deeper, right? And in my mind, the same is true of an album, especially if there's like a period of time in life where it's like a little slice of that you can kind of get a sense of someone and where they're at in that moment.
100%.
You can really dig into the ideas because it's interesting how songs, even if it's not like some concept album where it's like telling this story, but just like you were saying, like this chunk of time, same environment, there is a palette that you're working with in that moment, and there's like some cohesion between the songs.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you said, even if it doesn't have to be a concept album, but like, we're in the same place, in the same headspace, at least for the most of it. 6 months, it's a long time. Your headspace changes a little bit, but like lyrical themes, stuff that he's writing about in that time, and just doing it all in the same room, like.
I was just about to pull up your songs, but I'll do that later. But I was just going to start looking because like the whole idea for y'all too. I mean, Safety Coffin as a project seems like a concept, and then you've got songs that are kind of in line with that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you speak to that a little bit, just about the project itself, the name of the band?
Yeah, I mean, so like a safety coffin was like this Victorian invention. Back before, doctors knew what they were doing. And they thought you might have snakes in your blood, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
People were terrified about getting buried alive.
Right.
Because, like, I don't know, they didn't know what a coma was yet, I guess.
Right.
Or whatever. People would just, like, wake up dead. People were terrified of, being buried alive. So they came up with this, like, goofy invention where, like, coffin, there's a little post at the top of the gravesite with a bell tied to it and like string that runs all the way down, bang into a coffin, and it's like tied around your toe or something, so you can like wiggle it out and hope that somebody comes and
it's your last connection with the waking world.
So like Matt found it because Matt's really into all the creepy stuff. I mean, I'm down with it too, but he's all into the Mothman. He's all into his cryptoids. He's all into it. So, but he found that out, and we just thought like the idea was hilarious. Like, what a like
crazy,
what a funny thing. So, it definitely like provided some inspiration for like a lot of the songs, and also just kind of like the theme, like I don't know, cool, like kind of like gothic Victorian era kind of stuff, but like. One of the songs, not our first song that we wrote together, but like, I mean, one of the earliest ones, like the second or the third or something like that. The one called "The Bell." I mean, that one's awesome. He crushed those lyrics so well. It's like we were really contemplating there for a minute, like doing the Black Sabbath thing and like calling that one "Safety Coffin." So we could have had like. Safety Coffin, the band, album Safety Coffin, the song Safety Coffin.
Right.
But he's so good at writing those kind of like narrative lyrics, and like the whole idea of getting poisoned and then like waking up in the grave. If you're listening, the song's called "The Bell." He tells a story about getting poisoned by his lady and then waking up inside the coffin and realizing what happened. So a whole buried alive kind of thing. And there's cool kind of like, does he get out of the coffin? Does he not get out of the coffin? So
is anyone in earshot of the bell?
Exactly. Like he's having all these thoughts inside the grave. But so we wrote like that one, and then we wrote another song that didn't make the album, but we recorded it. Maybe we'll release it later. Called Cat Eyes. It's actually been out before, so you might have heard it. But and that one, he like we wrote after like a Twilight Zone episode.
Okay.
So like for 2 of the first 3 original songs are all this kind of like creepy kind of theme, and it's like, all right, we got what we're rolling with, you know. So, and throughout the album, I mean, he just hits on that kind of stuff. Some stories from literature or whatever. There's some like biblical kind of stuff in there, but then a lot of interpreting his own personal kind of demons and traumas that he's been through. So, but yeah, it definitely helped to establish the theme. I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of bands don't really have a theme. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Which is something that like we, and any band I've ever kind of been in, has like really, really valued. Mm-hmm. It's like you need like, I don't know, something. Something. So when people like think of us, they hopefully don't just think like rock and roll, which there's nothing wrong with that, but like we want it to be a whole complete idea.
Yeah.
Visuals.
It's specific. Like that comes across. And, and initially when I saw the name, it kind of tripped me out. I was like, clearly it was kind of a joke. Cause I remember seeing those, in books and whatnot, and like studying in medicine and talking about those specific kinds of things, and working as a paramedic. I won't go into the details, but there's been times when we would get called in for someone who is pulseless and apneic, and we get there, and as soon as we like show up, all of a sudden they have returned spontaneous circulation. So and so it was like someone had, without getting into any details, like I can see how it happens, and especially toward the like severe old age, and you got all kinds of organ failures and things going like that. It's kind of amazing just how one thing can strike up the heartbeat again, and then you can like come to, and like how people can kind of go along with that. So in my mind, like that's what I think of when I think of Safety Coffin, or like that era, because like you said, they didn't know a lot about what was going on. And so, and whether or not they had that story, but I could see like that everyone's got that one story, or like some distant grandfather or cousin or something that happened to them. There's like, well, we got to create this Safety Coffin.
Yeah. My mother's brothers, cousins, boyfriends, dad.
Right.
Got buried alive.
Yeah.
That's what they were all saying back then in the
and no doubt, or it's just this whole idea too, where like the Undertaker or whoever was like, hey, for just $50 more, we can put you in a safety coffin. Just in case. I never
thought about that. They were just hustling. It was just a little
creating the disease and the cure, I
never thought about that. They were just scamming.
Maybe.
I like that though.
Yeah. But I will say, like, when I first saw the name, I was like, well, is this going to be like, I'm picturing like goth metal. And then it's just this like nasty, filthy blues that just fits it so well. Anyway, because all metal is blues based anyway, for the most part.
Facts.
So it's just interesting, but it just like how raw it was. And I think like, my thought was like when it was so powerful the way that y'all were playing, it really felt pretty epic at different points, where it's just like energizes you.
Yeah, cool.
And you're just like fighting dragons or whatever. I don't know. And then I just started tripping out. I was like, yeah, it's kind of like, it's that inspiration, or it's that like last bit of hope when you're in a dark place. I was like, maybe that's the safety. That was the cell.
Yeah.
I was like, this works. This works in my mind anyway.
Cool.
So yeah.
Great. Sometimes I hate the name just because of what you said. Like,
right.
Goth metal. Like all the time we get hit up for bills, and it's like, want to join this bill? And we like check it out, and it's like we don't fit this bill at all. You just read the name, you didn't listen to nothing. Right. It's all this like, it's all like this death or thrash or whatever, and it's like Matt's up there kind of crooning a little bit. It's just the two of us, like. So that does happen sometimes, or it's like, or we'll try and book like, I don't know, we'll try and book some like brewery gigs and stuff like that.
Right.
And I feel like it's a no right from the jump, because it's like, no, we can't have you bringing in all this. It's like,
I got faith in y'all though. Like as far as like a newer band, like if y'all keep up with it, I feel like it's the band makes the name.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
And so eventually, like with whatever you go with, like and you once your sound is synonymous with that name, people won't mistake it, and they'll know exactly what they're in for. It can kind of create a whole new idea for a lot of folks too.
Yeah, cool.
So I don't know. I like it. I could understand initially. I was like, what is this about? At first, I thought that Watches was Safety Coffin just because I saw y'all's merch, and then I saw the band, and I didn't really know. Like, I had no plans to go to Fleetwood's that night,
right?
And then it was like, oh, okay. So it's just like one of those discovery things, like finding out about both bands at once. I was like, this is awesome. Like, and I had never been to Fleetwood's before, so it was like a really cool night of like discovering like new bands, new place to me, all that. So it was kind of exciting.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then it's kind of weaving and like, yeah, it's like full discovery.
Yeah, good duos that night.
Yeah,
Watches
for sure.
is awesome.
Yeah. So tell me about the other bands, like, or more so like your drumming and kind of any aspects of the drumming or that path where you maybe hit a crossroads on like this band or that band, or even if it's just playing music or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the other bands I was kind of in before kind of faded organically. Like I said, I was playing in this band called Sane Voids, and that's how Matt probably first saw me and was like, oh, I want to, I want to play with this dude. And that band was, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and with like a bunch of my best friends, it was a lot of like, like kind of grungy punk stuff. Like, I'm not a child of the 90s because I was born in 98, but like the 90s rock stuff is like, that's really my jam. Like all the Seattle stuff.
For sure.
I mean, I'm so into it. So like that was kind of inspiration with that project. Just drumming fast. Like I don't think I ever, in the whole like 5 years of that project, I don't think I ever just like didn't do a rim shot when I'm doing snare stuff. Like just as loud as I could with my big like brass drum. Like the sound people would get so mad. Like over at the auditorium, I forget the sound person's name, but they're just funny. They were like, we had played there a couple times, and I rolled in there for the gig, and they came up to me and they were getting ready to set the mics up, and they're like, is that your same snare drum? And I was like, yeah. And I just walked away, took the mics back, walked away. So yeah, that was that was my bread and butter there for a minute. I mean, just hitting hard, boy, because it was a 5-piece and like 3 guys playing guitars, and for the most part playing the same part on the guitar.
Right.
They weren't great at making cool little harmonies and switching the parts up. I mean, it was like 3 dudes hammering power chords and then like a big old Mesa 4x10x15 bass cabs. I was like, I gotta keep up somehow.
Right.
So
get the brass snare.
Yeah, and just
the big bass drum.
Exactly, dude. So that was that project. I loved it, but it just it was time, dudes getting married and that kind of thing. Yeah, sure. So it just kind of faded out. And then I had a project that I was really passionate about there for a minute called Baghead. And then that Emma interview, they talk a lot about like art rock. Like that's what we kind of tried to do with Baghead. It was me, my buddy Sid, who moved with me from Winston, and then a guy named Hamish. And with that, we had all these costumes, which like we had all these bags that we wore. We had like a comic strip going.
Okay. Who came up with the comic strip?
It was Hamish's idea, kind of like the visual element of things.
Okay.
Yeah, and like he had a whole storyline planned out, like a backstory, and like I was so into that. Like it was so cool to like we kind of talked about it a minute ago, just like being intentional with what we're wearing, the kind of stuff we're doing. I mean, some of the stuff like whatever, maybe a little like kitschy, like we were like blocking out all of the logos on all the instruments that we're playing, and just like being anonymous in like the digital age, which is kind of the idea with that. Like we tried to keep our faces out of things. We tried not to be recognized, even though it's like, hey, come to our show, we're Baghead, but like we still tried to like be kind of anonymous with it, and hide the identities, and that was kind of the whole idea there. But yeah, we did some cool stuff. We did like funky flyerings with like missing, like fake missing posters and stuff. I like saw it in a class at UNCA where I went there about like the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
Have you ever heard that where they the marketing that they did
for that,
where they just do like the fake like where like the kids missing kind of thing?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I just thought that
was that kind of like guerrilla marketing?
Yeah. Guerrilla marketing kind of stuff. I just thought that was like the coolest idea. So we like put up all these like do not approach signs like all over Asheville. Just as like trying to do like some cool guerrilla and it was awesome. I mean we put like a phone number up there and had this like creepy like recorded voice memo to play.
Fun. Yeah.
It pissed a lot of people off on like West Asheville Exchange. I mean, we were getting dogged on. We were getting dogged on wax on Facebook. Yeah. And like, how dare they? There's real missing people out there. How dare? And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then like, there's like one or two comments who like, sounds like a cool band. Props to that, you know,
right.
Like,
well, and like, there's no bad publicity, right? Like,
exactly.
this part of the idea is like stirring some pots and
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, man, if people want to dog on me on West Asheville Exchange, so be it.
Yeah. I stand on both sides. Like I understand like people, you know, feeling kind of maybe triggered by it and all these kinds of things, but also like I also believe in the power of humor to help you like process those kinds of things too, you know? And so in my mind, like, you know, the trigger comes up for different reasons. There's always been movies and art that kind of stir those kinds of things in like real ways for people. And again, like the trigger is there not like in the mental health world, you know, I think what we talk about is that you can't avoid the trigger. It tells you something. So it lets you know there's some work to be done or there needs to be something that's addressed, you know, as opposed to like, just whitewashing everything and getting rid of all triggers necessarily. Right. Like, it's like, oh, this triggers me. Why does it trigger me? Maybe I've got some work to do on that kind of a thing. And it's also their right to complain. Yeah. You know,
100%.
So, you know, I can see those angles, but yeah, I think there's something to that intentionality, those themes, you know, some people call it a gimmick, but again, it's art, you know, so yeah. Like, yeah, it's a lot more fun to be intentional about it. Yeah, I've tripped out too over like, you know, you think about like Buckethead or Slipknot or those kinds of bands, you know, and I think they had the same kind of perspective. Like, we want to make it about the music, not about us as individuals. And I was always like, wow, this feels weird though, because it just felt like a gimmick, but also they made it a thing. Yeah. And I don't think I mean, plenty of people can deny this, but as far as like from a drummer perspective, I mean, Joey Jordison, come on, and also the band, I mean, they did some incredible stuff. Yes. For what they were doing at the time. So I don't know, but I know that's,
yeah, they were good enough to where like, yeah, it's not the costumes, everything like that. That's off to the side. Like, it's not the focus because they got the chops to back it up. Right. I can't say Baghead did. Or not, but
but you tried, no doubt.
But we tried, yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry, are we not talking drums enough? I know we're
no, it's fine, dude. Like, so I think this all counts because you're a drummer.
Cool.
So that's kind of my perspective, because I also, like, on the podcast, I don't just talk to drummers, but like, this is the art, and so like where you come in with it and like how you approach it as the drummer, I think is helpful. Cool. So yeah, but we can definitely get back to drums. So like with those bands, and you did kind of mention too, like how heavy you were hitting, what the sound was like, how you were contending with three guitars playing the same notes at once was like with, you know, a Mesa kind of setup and all that. Like, how has it changed since then?
Yeah, I mean, with Safety Coffin, I definitely like try and be a whole lot more dynamic for sure. 'Cause I mean, the dude's voice is awesome. He's such a good singer.
Really.
So
Truly.
There's a whole lot of like me trying to not step on his toes, because like that's what I want people to take from the band. Well, you know, especially at some of the clubs that we're playing too, where it's like, the sound system ain't that great. You know, we got a couple blown PAs playing in the dang garage. Like, it's so easy to like lose the vocals. And so, and the lyrics, like, come on. Like, you were at Fleetwood's, like, it's so rare that you're seeing a show like that where you're like, you can hear the words that the singer, the vocalist is saying.
Truth.
And Matt puts so much, like, I love his lyrics. Love them. So, like, I really, sometimes I get too into it, sure, and I get to yamming. But, like, my goal is to, like, try and let the vocals be the centerpiece.
Yeah, okay.
And let those lyrics get heard. Because, I mean, it all goes along with, like, the theme and stuff like that. Like, if you really listen to what he's saying, it's like, oh, there's good stuff here. There's, like, some real thought to these lyrics. It all fits the whole vision of the band, you know? So, I definitely try and be, like, real dynamic with Safety Coffin. But then at the same time, just the two-piece, when we get loud, like, I try and, like, really, like, fill up a lot of space too. So I do things in Safety Coffin that I haven't really done before. Like I'm rocking like the ching ring on the hi-hat and try and keep like the left foot going a lot of the times just to fill space, you know, because I don't know if there's a part where I kind of fall out or, you know, he gets real, like all of a sudden we got nothing. So it's a balance of like trying to like leave room for him, but at the same time, like, fill a whole lot of that space.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Like I come from playing in trios or up to 6-piece. And then before that, like playing in like, you know, full like big band kind of stuff. And a lot of times on that side of it, you're like, man, if I can just get a smaller band, then I can like shine more. Right. But then what you start to lose is like, oh, I got all this freedom. And then you're like, oh, freedom, shit, you know, like now what do I do? So now it is like a bigger responsibility. So like what you would always hope for really shining, you know, or getting to do all these different licks. It's like, yeah, but no, there's like a specific space I need to fill. Got to work on my hi-hat stuff now more, like keep something going so it can fill more of that sound and be more intentional, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Such a good point. I feel like I never thought about it that way. I always thought, yeah, the two-piece is just going to be easier, right? In some regard. Yeah, you don't get that bass like thumping to like fall back on. But otherwise, like you were talking about, like the split is easier, 50-50. Logistics are a bit easier, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a different kind of responsibility. So yeah, like you had just mentioned, Empire Strikes Brass, amazing band, massive.
Shout out Nick.
Yeah. Yep. So like the drummer's like role there, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility to keep everyone on time and also to provide that groove that they have that's so good too. But yeah, I mean, you have as much responsibility just in different ways. Yeah.
I feel like it's like driving cars of different weights, you know, when you got like a big old like 6-piece band or something, like you gotta start braking a little bit earlier. You gotta like be a little bit more careful around the turns and everything like that. But then with the 2-piece, like it's all quick and handles real well. I'm saying this like I'm a car guy. I'm really not, but
it works. No,
but you know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. It handles a little bit easier. But at the same, I mean, I've always kind of considered myself a little bit more of like I'm a groove drummer. I can't chop it up like a lot of these cats do, you know. But with Safety Coffin and being a 2-piece, like I feel like you can't really like chop it up that much. Like you kind of got to keep it like I'm just trying to be kind of like simple and like wide. You know what I mean? Because if you start like going in for these big 16-bar fills, stuff like that, it's like ain't nobody there keeping it going. You know? So it's definitely it's different for sure. Yeah, just trying to fill the space. I got bigger cymbals for this one too. You know, like I feel like with like Sane Voyage or some of those bands I mentioned before, like a big 20-inch crash wouldn't work because that decays so long. You know, so like you can't hit these quick little like, psh, like I hit the crash cymbal and Safety Coffin and it just like it rings out for so long. You know, but it's just all trying to fill room. You know, So
that's something else. Like we talked a lot about like playing the room. But also how the room kind of plays you too, and like how it's kind of your sound. And you know, I haven't read this book yet, but another guest was talking about David Byrne talking about how
how music works
with Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that
just
book
talk
is
about,
awesome.
Like, yeah. And so he was mentioning more about how like CBGB made Talking
Dude,
Heads. Right?
It's crazy.
Like that sound that was coming out of there, that they made there, like created what it was. You know, do y'all have a space like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, places like Fleetwood's, or like the practice space that we use. Whether it used to be Matt's basement, and then lately we've been going to Experience Music. But that's stuff with all like tight rooms.
Experience Music. Tell me more about that.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. It's a practice space there on Merriman.
Okay.
Like kind of in like the parking lot of like Asheville Pizza and Brewing Company.
Okay.
It's pretty hidden. It's a great spot though. I mean, they got backline.
Okay.
Really cool though. I mean, affordable spot, and that's where when Matt and I really started kind of getting going, when our other projects kind of fell apart, and it was like, okay, this is the project now.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we went and would grind.
Got it.
Grind big time, and got tight and started writing all those songs. So yeah, I mean, places like that, you know, I mean, especially at these rooms like Fleetwood's where there's no dampening, you know. So like, Matt's always like, no reverb on the vocals because you're gonna hear it, you know. There's gonna be the natural reverb anyways. I get questioning myself sometimes too because I like these venues we play. I'm not all mic'd up, you know. I don't. I maybe had the kick or the snare, but like no overheads. Certainly nothing on the toms. And sometimes I try and do cool, you know, little cross sticking parts or playing on the rim, which I really like the sound of, and I like how kind of like, you know, choppy it makes things. Like sometimes it's really, really cool. But then, or like, you've maybe seen us and I do the tambourine thing sometimes with Safety Coffin, right? But it's like, because there's no mics and it's like a pretty loud room and people are like, I don't even know if you can hear it.
Right.
Which like really kind of gets me in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like, I like the part. It sounds awesome when it's him and I in like a small little recording room, but there's like some couches. Like you can hear it then, but then I'm like, does it get drowned out when you're playing in a concrete room with no mics? It might. So it gets me thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I adjust accordingly, but it definitely gets my brain thinking of like, does this work or not? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And how do you choose the song for that for each room? Yeah, I mean, I've heard about some drummers that'll, you know, especially like for hire that play in like several different bands. They'll have like different kits, different sets of cymbals, all that. It gets expensive.
Oh yeah.
You know, to like say, okay, well, this is what this room can handle or need. You know, trying to be specific to those places, and also like even if Fleetwood's isn't like sonically the best. Or maybe it's not for the best for every song. The energy that runs through that place is still killer
awesome
for what y'all do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, and especially just for the fact that they have coffins in their lobby.
I mean, it's fitting, right? Yeah.
Right.
It's home. No, Fleetwood's is awesome. Very thankful for it.
Yeah.
That book, the David Byrne book, is so cool.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I have a copy if you need to borrow it. It's
Right
really
on.
cool. He goes deep. He talks about like, you know, like secular music and like old church hymns. It's like it's all this long drawn out stuff, and it's like it's because they started doing like mass or their gatherings or whatever in like caves with crazy it's like, dang, that is nuts.
Yeah.
And he talks about like in Africa, you know, a lot of the tribes or whatever, like they'd go to drums because it would like sound like the stampedes of the animals and stuff. Just really, really cool book.
Yeah.
A super cool book.
What's next for y'all? Big decisions or?
Yeah, I mean, figuring out the tour is the big thing. I feel like you put so much work into the recording process and you spend so much time. We were doing sessions 3-4 days a week for like a while there. And we live tracked everything.
Oh, wow.
Sans vocals, but the instrumentals we all live tracked, right?
Cool.
So it's just like, goes back to earlier. I was like, just me and you in a room looking at each other. So it was a long process. A lot of like, you know, whole days where we would record a song over and over and over again and just be like, it's not the take, you know?
Yeah.
So
did y'all have help with that as well, or y'all pretty much running everything?
No, I mean, I kind of did everything. The producing and like the mixing and everything was more or less me, which was cool. Because I'd kind of been on the fringe of that for a really long time. It was normally my boy Sid doing it. And it was always kind of me on like the, sitting off to the side, tossing an opinion here or there. But this was kind of my first time like, bang, is me, trying, not to say I didn't have help from friends that have done it before. But, yeah, I mean, it was just Matt and I in the top little guest room of my house. So, really cool.
Nice.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
And scary. But
scary in what way? Just like, how's this going to land?
Or just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I thought I kind of knew what I was doing. And then once you really get into it, you start trying to EQ your kick drum. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, dude. This thing's going to sound terrible.
That ignorance is so key, though.
Yeah.
Because if you knew exactly what you were getting into, you might not ever do it.
Yeah.
So
for
just
sure.
like saying,
toss them into the deep end. Yeah.
Or that trust, like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Which, cool on my bandmate there, too, to be like, this is your first time doing it? All right. Yeah, you can do it for our debut album, whatever, So, I liked the process a lot, though. It grew on me as I kind of went on with it, And I've kind of interned with this guy for a long time named David Johnson.
Okay.
Who's an amazing drummer.
Uh-huh.
Beast. Dude's awesome.
Local.
He lives out in Weaverville.
Okay.
And like did a bunch of session kind of stuff. Is a songwriting drummer too, which
cool.
I love. That's what I kind of gravitate towards, It's like, okay, this is somebody I can really learn from because that's what I'm into. But anyways,
and like you said, like y'all write the songs together a lot of times too, right? Mm-hmm. So are you picking up? How are you? Like, are you creating some of the melodies, or how does that come up for you?
Like, I play a lot of guitar too. These days, I probably play more guitar than drums because I got roommates.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of guitar parts. Or groove, like it just has always worked with Safety Coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Where like he'll come at me with something, a guitar part, and I go to play drums, and he's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing." And it definitely helps when if it's a guitar part that I write, like I'm thinking of drums as I'm writing the guitar part. You know what I'm like? I'll never present him with a song and be like, all right, now I got to figure out my drum part. It's all stuff where it's like, I'm writing it at the same time. Most of the time in my head. Sometimes I'll go and like do a little scratch and then like play drums over top of it and like get the groove figured out. But for the most part, while I'm playing the guitar, even if I'm just messing around,
it's in the
noodling.
Right.
The drums are going on in my head while I'm playing the guitar. So
awesome. Does he play drums?
Matt? Mm-hmm. He tries to.
Okay.
No, he's really not bad. So that helps sometimes too. If I'm showing him a guitar part out of practice,
right?
He'll pop on the kit.
Okay.
We'll bust it out for a minute. We joke all the time about doing a a spin-off called Danger Cradle.
Okay, Danger Cradle.
Hopefully that'll never see the light of day. But no. But yeah, no, he does play some drums and enough drums to where he can, he'll play it. He'll see me playing the guitar part, and our minds are both just kind of going at the same time. So the writing process in this band is like really, really cool and fun. And also to have a dude that's willing to hear the drummer's song. And I was like, lame drummer joke right there. But it's like, it's like cool to have a guy like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And I don't write any of the the vocal melodies or the lyrics or anything because man's a champ at that. But it's cool that we get to collaborate so much on the musical element.
Nice. Yeah. And if you love the process, like nothing can stop you then.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Very few things.
And we really took such a long, like I said, we took a break from like writing songs because we were like, we gotta record some of these before we get, get ahead of ourselves here. And then we put the album out like a month ago, and we should be rehearsing for shows for the album. We're just back to writing more songs.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, thank God we can get back to writing and start thinking about recording again. So that's been really cool. I mean, I've never had a project where the songs come as easily as they do.
Nice.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you kind of found the recipe for just someone who's like willing, like having someone who can write the lyrics, also write melody, full songs. You also are minded in that way. The communication sounds like it's less complicated than it can be in some other bands or other projects. And that you keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
And just being able to like kind of meet the meeting of the minds is so key.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which different writing processes I feel like is like my favorite part about playing in bands. It's so cool hearing how different people write songs. Like there was a point there where I was playing in, I don't know, as drummers do, I was playing in like 4 or 5 bands or whatever, but it was like couldn't really say no because I kept hearing people's songs, and if I like the songs, it's like, yeah, I want to be a part of it, you know. I'm very much like a song drummer.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for, is like good songs.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Right on.
I'm just trying to suit the song.
Nice.
So,
do you have any other projects going on right now?
yeah, I've actually got a new one going with my partner named Bailey and my friend from Winston-Salem, Sid, called Paprika.
Okay.
Which is a real challenge too, because she's got such like a delicate, soft voice.
Okay.
So you mentioned a second ago, like some drummers have different kits for different, like for this project, I got these cool Slingerlands 20-inch kick drum, muted all heck, tossing the, towels and everything on the toms, because it's so easy to overpower.
Yeah.
This is like, other than like an ABBA cover band that I did there for a minute, this is my first like real like female fronted project.
Okay.
So it's like it's maybe been my most challenging kind of thing so far, drumming project. Just trying to not step on the toes, because like it's so I still have that brass snare drum. It's so easy to overpower, and it's like, no, not my role for this. Right. I gotta like chill in the back. So yeah, really excited about that one. It's relatively new, but some cool juxtaposition with that project, because like my boy Sid, he's playing in like drop C standard, so like low guitars, and there's parts where like I'm yamming, I'm getting up there, and then this cool little contrast, airy vocal just cool, flying over top. It's really exciting. It's really cool.
Nice.
But and then like the writing process so different. I mean, in some ways this project Paprika feels like pulling teeth a little bit. I mean, so slow.
Yeah.
I love it. Sid, but my friend Sid, he's a perfectionist. Like he just he'll overthink a song or rethink a song, reimagine it so many different ways before like in his mind it's ready.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been playing together, trying this project for over a year, and it's like, man, it's.
And did you say Sid was out of town as well?
He's from Winston-Salem. I've known the dude for like 12 years. You would think the writing process would be so much quicker, but and it's also Bailey's kind of first time like fronting a band like this and writing. So I've got the 2 projects I've got going right now are like total opposite ends. One, get in the room, we'll have a song done in a half hour because we already know how it sounds before we've played it together.
Right.
And then this other project where it's like, all right, we're on month 3 of working on this one song.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you like, where do you find the patience? Like, how do you get it?
Because I believe in the product so much. Like Sid, probably the best guitar player I've ever played with.
Okay.
And just really unique and cool guitar parts that he comes up with. Stuff that I would never come up with. And his ability on guitar is just so much higher than mine. And then, I mean, my lady Bailey, she's got such a cool voice and also such cool lyrics and stuff like that. So like, that's how. It's because like the end goal, the product that we've come out with twice or whatever with a couple songs we've written has been so good.
Okay.
That's like, okay, I can.
Proof of concept.
Yeah.
Full trust.
Yep. And it's like, I can.
Folks you are close to.
Yep. That
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Big help. If it was people that I didn't like love and care about, like it'd be tougher.
Yeah.
But yeah. And sometimes it feels weird as like the drummer. Not to say I'm not like always trying new stuff out with songs. I mean, you know how it is. Even songs that you've been playing for 4 years or something, you might I just came up with this thing. I might switch it up a little bit, which is
Sure.
cool. Drummers have that freedom.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times other, guitar players can't just, I'm gonna play this section totally different, or you know what I mean?
It's true, yeah. Like their sound is more signature to the song, whereas like for drums, a lot of times like you might have a fill here and there,
Yeah.
or a main underlying rhythm, but at the same time, like you can mess with time.
Yeah. And it's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
And you see like the videos of folks like chopping up a song and like, another prog drummer messes up, your favorite pop song from the 70s. You know? And
right.
It's like they just completely change the time signature and it like throws everything off in a different way.
Yep.
Sometimes you find something that way, but sometimes it's just unnerving too,
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's awesome to have the freedom though.
Yeah.
Like you think of some of these bands that have been torn for like, dude, like Chili Peppers, one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah, nice.
Chad Smith, my guy.
Oh yeah, he's
the man. But you think of some of those guys, I'm like, man, you've been playing this song for 25 years, and like Flea, Anthony, John, they kind of got to do the same thing. But Chad's back there, and he's messing with it a little bit, Even some of the. Did you see his Drumeo? Did you watch that one?
Yeah,
it's awesome. And he's like, I don't know. It's just
how those guys keep their energy up.
Oh yeah,
this
crazy.
long. I mean, I've never seen them live, but I've seen plenty of video and stuff like that. And I saw an interview with Thundercat when he was touring with them.
Yeah.
A bit. And he was just talking about how he felt like, I think something along the lines of he just felt like he was learning a lot just because he saw them go to work every day.
Yeah.
Like jumping around, like bringing the party,
And they're not young no more.
No.
But yeah. Yeah, it's cool to be able to switch it up a little bit. Otherwise, I think, you'd go crazy playing the same fill, the same spot.
Yeah.
For 30 years. It's crazy. So, but yeah, the longevity of projects like that is really admirable. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. To stay with a band that's mostly been the same setup, for such a long period of time. Did you ever do like the drummer for hire thing? Like, to catch gigs and stuff, or mostly like you're in it for the projects and the art?
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say I haven't had a lot of opportunities to. I'm not good enough to. No, but I don't know. I just feel like it's a whole different kind of thing. Like I learned how to, like, my drum instructor that I mentioned a minute ago, the Twisted Sister guy. He was awesome. He was a big band dude too. I mean, he tried to have me playing traditional grip, and but he was a good instructor. He taught me how to read, read charts. He kind of had mentioned that kind of thing to me, but like really early on in like my drumming, lessons from him, he was kind of like, "Do you want to like learn how to read music, or like do you want to play in band? Like, do you want to play in a band?" And I was like, "I want to play in a band, dude. That's what I'm in this for." So right from my jump as a drummer, that was the goal. Like that was cool. He would, towards the end of me taking lessons with him, like I'd bring my guitar and show a song that he wrote, and he'd be like, "Okay, like what kind of drum part are you hearing for this?" Or like, "Let me record this for a minute, and now you play the drums over what you're, play the drums underneath what you're playing on guitar." So like from really early on, that was kind of the goal. That was what I kind of was raised up on. And I like the drummer for hire thing is cool. I mean, it's definitely cool. I think like studio work would be cool, but I love the collaborative process. Like, I'm so about that. So
nice. Awesome.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
If I get good.
Well, I respect it. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting you say it that way. Like, I'm not good enough to do that. But, at the same time, I think a lot of drummers feel like they're just in the grind of that and not really contributing or writing songs that much. I mean, that's a different skill. That's like, that's admirable,
And like, that was kind of my whole thing with drums too. Like I was doing the playing horn in school, you know, and trying out for like all county and all district and doing all those kind of like auditions and stuff. And I was like, I don't like the drums was always kind of like a way to rebel against that. Not to be like cliche and like punk rock or whatever, but you know, it was always kind of like playing music that way, reading stuff, learning, like, not to sound like a bonehead, but like parts of it was, this feels more like paint by numbers or something.
Yeah.
Instead of like, no, we're just getting it, you know?
So the thing that I'm loving about this story is that so often I've heard, you know, stories of drummers, like people that were drummers first and then quickly would realize like, oh, there's no voice as a drummer. But actually that was the route you went. Like,
yeah.
I trip out on the story about Jack White. Like he played drums first. Yeah. And
Love
then right? Yeah. And then he realized like, and it sounds like he probably has a very similar process. Like he's definitely thinking about drums when he's writing. Mm-hmm. He's thinking about everything that's going on with it. But, but he switched to guitar because he knew that there wasn't going to be much of an opportunity for a voice. But when you were coming from more of like the school perspective, academic study of like clarinet, saxophone, tryouts, competition for chair, competition for county, state, whatever, the drums meant for you like more freedom to like find your voice. It wasn't paint by numbers for you. So like that was that opportunity for self-expression. And now like you're in bands where you're very much integral in those processes, not just like taking on someone else's ideas and just like trying to serve what they're putting up.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you coming over.
Yeah.
Man.
This was awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.